just start from the beginning.
Okay.
Marcel,
It-
take it away.
Well, I was just going to say, ask questions just like you're going to do with a potential seller you're going to get a listing for. I got a property several years ago where I just asked a lot of questions, and time of possession was a huge deal for the seller. He wanted kind of hang out a little bit. He had a lot of junk per se. So when I threw my offer in, I gave him 30 days. And he told me that's what got the deal.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So
Yep. That's a good, all the little things matter for sure. I worked this one deal that I'm still proud of, and this was years ago, but I just caught that little glimpse that they were like, that they wanted to, be able to stay there. The seller wanted to be able to stay there for a little while because they had some issue. And I'm getting like weird feedback, but hopefully it's okay. So the seller just kind of gave, they said the most slight little thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, they want to be able to stay there for 60 days. This was before everyone else was doing like the 60-day lease back things. And we just said, hey, here's our offer. Accept it now. You have 60 days to move out. We offered like, I don't know, I want to say like 14,000 less or something. And it had just hit the market, and they accepted it, no questions asked or anything. And I was just like, yeah. So if you can pick up on those little things and then like just give them whatever they want, especially if it doesn't cost your client money, it's like, hey, let's do that. So
And should
I
I
love
start
that.
trying to should I try to build these relationships from like the onset of like the showing, or should I wait till like after my like client shows interest to really try and bridge that gap with those people?
I'll give you my opinion, then I'll be quiet for a minute. So I would say, yeah, you can reach out to them, but don't start asking them questions. Or some people will just be like, oh, when do you think the water heater was last replaced? Or when do you think the furnace was last replaced? Like, really, as we get into a more competitive market, agents do not want to be bothered. They don't want to be bugged. Like when you have that phone call with them, or when you're getting in a good conversation with them, take advantage of it and find out what is the seller's motivation. What do I have to do to make sure we get to work together on this one?
Okay.
So, and then I'll pass it over.
I love it. I agree with everything you guys all just said. Just communication is key. Ask questions because sometimes they will tell you, and price is not always the determining factor. So kind of going to what Marcel was saying, sometimes it's something so much bigger than just price. So just try and dig deep and figure out what it is that's important to the seller. And I always use our Y4C2Ts too. I always say we're looking for a win-win here. So I use that scripting in most every initial conversation, like, hey, I'm just looking for a win-win. What do we got to do to, work together? Something like that. So that's all I'd add to that question.
I like that. Thank you.
I wanted to add what I learned at family reunion is Jeff Glover, is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Glover. He said that there's 5 touches between when the appointment is set, like when you're gonna go see them, and when the appointment happens. And the first is text to confirm. The second, you'll give them a phone call to pre-qualify, split the difference kind of thing on the timeline between if your appointment's in like 5 days, maybe on day 2 or 3 is when you'll call them. And then you want to email them, maybe a video letting them know what's going on and what's going to take place at the appointment. That's 3. 4 is going to be a text message to verify some information prior to the appointment that you've likely received from the pre-qualifying phone call. And then the 5th is going to be at about an hour away. You're going to touch base with them and say, hey, I'm on my way, whether that's a phone call or a text.
I like that.
Just overly communicating is probably going to be your best friend, and that they're not going to have to worry about you dropping the ball.
I like that. I can.
Fortune is in the follow-up, right?
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and then one other thing that Nick mentioned was video. We do this most of the time, and especially as it is coming back and getting busier, we typically like to, whether we got them on the phone or not, throw you guys in as the buyer's agent and them as the listing agent in a group message and send a video just recapping our conversation, reiterating that they're super well qualified, comfortable with all the deadlines, it's going to be a home run, that type of thing. That way they can familiarize themselves with face and any personal touch and any way you can make yourself seem like a human, because we are, helps a ton, if especially if the offers are similar.
Yep.
Awesome.
Love it. Yeah, if they say, "Oh, hey, I'm not going to be able to get back to you because I'm going to my grandson's soccer game or I'm going to my nephew's hockey game or whatever," don't chastise them like a lot of people are doing of like, "Oh my gosh, why are you? I thought you're supposed to work 24/7." Just say, "Hey," or like your clients, do they know that you're not, communicating every moment of every day? But use that and say, "Oh my gosh, tell me about this hockey game. How'd it go? How old is your grandson?" I mean, if you can get on like a really good, if you can connect with these people, you can work it. And what you really want to be is you want to be the agent that you want to be the agent that even if they get multiple offers, like let's say that they have 5 offers, yours is not the highest. The highest one is like 485 and yours is at 465. If you're that one that they like the most, they probably are going to reach out to you and say, "Hey, I'm going to be honest, we've got a lot of offers. Yours is not the highest. But if you could come up to 490 or 485 or whatever, we would go with yours." And then you just bring that to your clients, and now your clients get to choose whether they want to get the contract by going up to that price or if it's not worth it to them. And they don't have to, of course, but it's nice when your clients get to be the ones who decide. And you can only really do that if you build the relationship.
Is it appropriate to like invite those guys out to a cup of coffee to like talk about it more? Is that an okay thing, or is that like
I don't know if you'll be able to nail them down for it, but sure. I mean, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
We used to do that. We used to present offers and negotiate in person. So that was a long time ago. And I think there's value to it. So if you could get them to do that, it'd be awesome. So there's nothing wrong with it or inappropriate. You might set them back a little. They'll be like, "Whoa, what?" But you can do it.
You might even intimidate them a little bit, but
Yeah.
maybe in a good way where they'll be like, "Whoa, this person's a pro."
Yep. And the same love that you do on your clients, you can totally do on an agent. So handwritten notes are awesome. Sending them cookies. I mean, you can just, you definitely, it's a relationship you're trying to build. So
Yeah, you could even have your client. I probably wouldn't send the seller cookies, but personally, but
no,
you could
I'm
have
thinking the agent.
totally. But don't
Yeah.
you think you could have your buyer send the seller cookies? Like I think if it was in your buyer's name and then went to the seller, I don't think that would be wrong.
Yeah, I think you could do it.
Oh, I like that. I
Yeah.
like it.
Let's get creative.
Yes.
Love it.
All right. Well,
Cool.
should we switch gears?
Yes. Let's switch gears. So tonight we're going to be talking about the listing consultation. So if anybody doesn't have any other questions that are pressing on their mind, we can definitely move over to that. So I was going to show you guys. So was anybody on the add value call today with Gary Keller? Anybody on here? Jake was. Okay. Well, I screenshotted something, so I will maybe put this in the chat, but I thought it was pretty cool because it kind of just outlines everything we're going to go over tonight. And I do it in a little different format, so I'm going to cover this. And I just thought the call was really good today. I don't know if anybody else thought that, but they really do talk a lot about the consultation, buyer and seller. So we'll talk about seller tonight. So basically, we're going to start by assuming you've already got the listing appointment, you're actually going on the listing, and kind of the steps that we take to go through that appointment. So for me, when I'm talking about time frames, that appointment, I try not to make it longer than an hour ever. I personally feel like any consultation, I love Nick's head going up and down. He must agree. No longer than an hour. I feel like anytime you're having any appointment with anyone, you can actually start to see where people will shut down. Their eyes will kind of glaze over. So my goal is to get in, go through some added value, go through the contracts and get out. So I'm not, hopefully I've already built rapport. I've already, built this relationship. So that's not what I'm going there for. I'm literally listing consultation to go get the contract signed and take the listing. So kind of going in with the right mindset is one of the first things that you can do. So there's there's two thoughts of what you're gonna do when you.
It's just
I
like your
love that. That
internet's
way we
trying to
don't talk
catch up
over each other.
a little bit. Your internet was just like a little behind, so maybe I think now we'll be good.
You might have to take over. I don't know why it's doing that. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
you were definitely a
Um,
robot.
My internet does it at like 6 o'clock at night. Like I think it's like we're done for the day. Or
Yeah,
if my
everyone gets
neighbors all get home.
home.
I don't know.
They all get home.
Yeah.
They're
Turns on Netflix.
All the
I
gamers.
think it's funny that Ryan said you were a robot because it just reminded me of like my little brother. He always says like you're a bot, which I think just means you're a dork or you're a loser. I don't know. But what does it mean? Ryan probably knows.
uh, well, I don't know.
All right.
I think it's like a gaming term for like you're I don't know, like one of the bots in the game because
Yeah.
you're bad. I don't know.
So sorry, but hopefully the internet's caught up now.
Okay. If it's not, Nick, you'll have to jump in and take over. So
Totally.
I was gonna say, so there's two forms of thinking. I'm gonna throw some scripting in here too, but when you get to the appointment, you basically, number one, you want to be on time or early. When I show up, I actually like to go early and I drive around the neighborhood. I use my app just to see if there's any last minute properties that have popped up that I haven't seen. I don't ever want to sit at the table and have somebody say, oh, my neighbor just listed their house for this amount and I don't know about it. So I do, I've got my comps, I've got everything I need for the appointment, but I will do a quick drive around with my app and just make sure that nothing else has popped up. And then one of the scripting things is to go in there and say, oh, good evening. It's 6 p.m. We had an appointment at 6 p.m. So I'm here. So you're kind of making the point like, number one, the very first thing they see is that you committed to something, you said you were going to do it, and now you're here and you're doing it. So you'll hear that with trainers too. They'll say, oh, it's 6 o'clock and we had an appointment at 6 o'clock. Just reminding that seller or that client that it's, that I'm doing what I said I was going to do right up front. Then this is where there's two sides of thinking. So Nick, jump in here. I personally like to do a walkthrough with the seller. Some trainers will tell you don't walk through because it does take time. And also, again, the point is you're getting in there, you're sitting at the table, you're getting the contract signed. I personally like to do a walkthrough. So it's nice to kind of get to know them a little bit more.
It's happening. It's happening again. So what was okay? You already talk about the value thing? Because I wasn't in the value class, but maybe
No.
I missed. Oh, okay.
You start talking, I'm gonna pull it up.
Okay, deal. All right. So I'm gonna just kind of go where I'm just gonna pick up where she left off. So yeah, definitely when you first get there, it's important to yeah, usually you're gonna do a walkthrough, and there definitely are different theories on it. I've always done the walkthrough first. What that sounds like is you walk in, hey, thanks so much for having me. It's 6 o'clock. Here I am. You walk in, you've got to have you're going to have material. So you're going to have stuff that you bring with you and go and put it on their kitchen table. That's basically going to instruct them that, hey, we're meeting at the kitchen table. If you don't do that, then you may get sat around the couch, like using a coffee table or something like that. And people are just going to be more laid back that way. You can't really show them things. Like it's just not as good of a spot. So you really want to be at the table. There's less distractions and things. So that's really what you want to do at very first. Do you want to do the value thing or is it bad timing?
No, I was just gonna say that this is just a good visual, so we don't have to keep it up the whole time. But this is really kind of what we would be talking about tonight. And I just thought it was great that the value added call, they did go through a lot of consultation. It was really good. So you guys really should jump on it. They went both buyers and sellers. So we will get all the slides, but I took a picture of this one specifically for tonight's
That's awesome.
training.
I love it. So maybe I'm going to talk about it, even though I haven't seen
Yeah.
it, but as I look at it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So throw in whatever. So, okay. So do the home walkthrough. Yeah. So leave your stuff at the front table or at the kitchen table. And that's, you really have to be a little bit bossy. You have to be a little bit in control of this conversation. So go there, drop it there. Hey, let's take a quick look at your house. Some people would say to have them follow you. Some people would say don't let them follow you. Like just tell them that you need to just see it on your own through the eyes of a buyer. I think either is okay. I really like to build rapport as we walk around because this is where they live their life every day. So, I just as you go through, they do want leadership. Marcel's 100% right. So they want a little bit of leadership. And as you go through, sometimes people say, okay, what are you looking for? And I think that's pretty important. So what are you looking for? You're looking just to see the general condition of the home, get a general idea of the layout. There's only about 5 floor plans in Utah anyways, so you probably pretty well know the floor plan, know the layout of the home. But it's nice to go through, just see what they've got, see the closet sizes, all that stuff. One thing is, unless this is a perfect house, which most of them are not, at least most of mine are not. As you go through, you're gonna see like a hole in the wall, or you're gonna see some paint that's all messed up, or you're gonna see something that looks like it's not working, or something like that. And as we run into those, I'm just like, oh, what happened to that? Like, and that's literally like that's kind of how it sounds to me. Geez, what happened there? Like, what's the story behind that? And I think some people are very nervous to point things like that out. But if you just say, oh, tell me the story about that hole in the wall, and it's a really actually a pretty good way to build rapport. And just by saying that, they'll usually be like, oh, I'm going to get that fixed. Don't worry about it. And I'll just be like, oh, no worries. What happened, or whatever. But to me, it's a much easier way to build rapport. But you're basically looking to see what condition the home is in, look for any items that they should be looking at doing, um, and then kind of building rapport. So as you go through, just a quick guideline on pricing, a precursor to pricing. You want to make sure like there's a few different levels that a house could be. It could be 100% move-in ready. Like average would be, I'd say 100% move-in ready, but it may not be in perfect shape. Like it's move-in ready. It's, the carpets are reasonably clean or reasonably livable. Everything's decent. It's all working. It's functional. It may not look amazing, but like move-in ready, that's really where we want to make sure all of our listings are. Now, the next level up would be totally remodeled, completely updated, like perfect, best, up-to-date colors, all that stuff. That would be a little bit better. The step below move-in ready would be like something that has holes in the walls, something that has floor missing, even if it's just that it's got carpet missing, or something that's got major repairs that need to be done, like even as much as like the oven doesn't work, or this bathroom plumbing doesn't work, like the sink doesn't work or whatever. Like, you really want to try to basically be identifying things that would prevent it from being move-in ready, because buyers buyers are willing to pay a good amount for a house that's move-in ready. If it's a project, they're going to pay significantly less. And then, of course, they will pay a premium if it's not only move-in ready, but it's also gorgeous. But for a lot of I do list a lot of average houses. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I'm like your average Joe is the house that I'm typically listing. And we're just making sure that it's as move-in ready as possible. We're not spending a bunch on remodels. Yeah, if they could do it really inexpensive, they could probably make some money on it. But by the time they get a contractor in and they have all that stuff done, they're probably not going to make a lot of money if they just upgrade their house a ton. Usually it's just get it up to move-in ready, make sure there's nothing keeping someone from wanting to move their family in there, and you're good. So that's what I'm looking for on the walkthrough. I'm curious, do you have anything else you'd add like to that walkthrough that you want to make sure you check on?
So one thing that I learned early on that I love and I still use is a scripting. So as they're walking around, and like Nick said, there could be holes in the wall, there could be painting issues or smells or whatever the case may be. Whenever somebody says, oh, do you think I should paint this? The script is, I would, and not say anything else. So then if they're like, do you think that I need to tidy up this room? I would say, I would, and don't say anything else. Have you heard that script before?
Oh, but I love it.
Yeah,
Because
that like helps a lot. That is awesome. I did not even think of it like that way. So that's good to know that.
yeah,
That's really
and
good.
it was taught to me that if they're asking you, they already know what needs to be done. Right? So if they're like, "Do I need to paint this orange wall something more neutral?" I would. So they've already thought about it and it's already on their list. They just want somebody to guide them. Like Marcel said, they want leadership. So just a scripting in the walkthrough that I learned a long time ago, and it's hard because we want to talk a lot. The less we actually say and just make statements like that, I think that's super helpful.
Yeah, that's
It
awesome.
is around this time where I would give the like, let's say the carpet does need to be changed out, and you've mentioned many times how like that's like a very common thing that's like brought up whenever like you guys like helps whenever you're like when usually helping a seller like, hey, we're gonna rip out all this carpet and put like some like fresh stuff down. Is this when that conversation happens?
It
Yeah.
could, yeah.
Yeah, I would say usually for me, the walkthrough is more like information gathering. So I'm not really telling them a bunch of stuff. I'm more, but yeah, like if they ask me, hey, do you think we should do this? Yeah, I would. Something like that. I think I totally would do that. Um, I do I mean, I would prefer it to be if I can just take in a bunch of information and then at the end, so as we kind of leave, we're going to say, okay, here's the items that we talked about. Here's the items that we saw. Do you want to do those yourself or do you want me to help you get those completed? Because, a lot of times, even just connecting someone with a handyman can be super helpful because handyman, they can do a lot of different things for way less expensive than some of the bigger trades. So a lot of times so I just say, hey, here's kind of the list we've come up with. Do you want to do those items yourself or would you want me to connect you with someone who can help you do it? And so that's kind of nice because we're adding value, we're offering some value, and then we just say, hey, how long do you think that's going to take? Or if it's a handyman job, I might say, oh, hey, I bet we can get that done within about 2 weeks. And then I'm setting the photography appointment. So it's like, hey, so let's say, okay, 2 weeks for the handyman to get all that stuff touched up. And then we're going to plan on pictures on that Monday, which is whatever day I'll get you a time. We're going to list it officially on Wednesday. And then on Thursday or Friday, we're not going to hold any showings. And on Saturday, we're going to have our grand open house. But like, that's kind of how I'm forward pacing it. And you're basically like, assumptively closing them by the fact that we have a photography appointment on the books and we have all the repairs on the calendar and we know when we're listing and we know when the open house is. Like that's basically, I mean, we're all but listed at that point, right? So yeah, so I do collect a lot of info on that walkthrough. Just really collect as much info as you can, write it down. Write it down and then you come back to the table. And then once we get more into pricing and stuff, I think that's more when I would like to talk about the repairs. But if it comes up right then, yeah, I'd just tell them. So, okay, so a home walkthrough. And I don't even know which one they want you to do first because they say do the needs analysis and home walkthrough. It almost seems like they want you to do the needs analysis first, which, some people think that. Some people think it's really weak to do a walkthrough at the beginning because it's not a very professional situation, but I really am always trying to move it more personal anyways. So the fact that we're walking through their home and stuff, I actually like that. If you're trying to be the most professional, like person in the room, maybe I could see why you'd want to do it first, but either way. Okay, so you go and sit down and you're always going to want to build some rapport. So this says needs analysis. That's a great way to build rapport. But we always focus on building rapport by talking about something other than real estate. So if all you're talking about is their house, it's hard to connect with them as a human. So you want to connect with them based on the sports team that you see in their house, their cars that you saw in the garage, their kids, their pets, whatever you can see to kind of connect with them on. You want to chat about that. But then we say dig deep for motivation. And that's really where the needs analysis comes in, is asking good questions to find out what their needs are. And I would just go as simple as possible. Hey, tell me a little bit about this move. Why are you considering making a move anyways? I always like to tell people, hey, you've got a great place. What has you considering making a move? So they're really expecting the realtor to be like, oh yeah, it's the perfect time to sell. Like now you're gonna get the most money in today's market. It's the perfect time. That's not what we're gonna say. We're gonna say, oh geez, you've got a great place. You know, what has you considering making a move anyways? And then they'll tell you, obviously they have a reason or you wouldn't be there. So they'll tell you, oh, well, we just want something a little bit bigger. We need a bigger yard so that our kids can run around or anything. And you just say, okay, well, tell me more. Why is that so important to you? And they might say, oh, just because our kids have too much energy, they drive each other nuts, and we just want to be able to send them out back and have them get all their energy out. Oh, really? And tell me, why is that so important to you? Like, what are you most looking forward to now that you're gonna have a bigger yard? And they might say, oh, we're just gonna have more, family peace. Everyone's gonna have a little more space to spread out. And we just really think it's gonna be a better fit for our family. And it's like, and then you just say, don't you think you deserve that? I totally think you do. Or something like that. Like, oh, that's going to be so great. You guys definitely deserve that. So you're just kind of like you're like taunting them almost to give you their reason, and then they give it to you, and you're just like, yeah, 100%. That's what we're doing. So go deep. If you just stop at we want a bigger yard, it may not get to what's really motivating them to do this. So, because maybe they want the bigger yard so they can play in the backyard with their kids while they're still young and have some really great memories with them or whatever. Like, you got to dig deep to find out what is really driving them to make that decision.
So like the single acknowledgement of each of those things is like super important then, right? Like the overall empathy kind of thing, like the
Totally.
kind of like customer service call, I guess. I don't know. I've only done customer service for years, but well, not I'm a recruiter now, but before that, it was all customer service, and that was kind of the game plan of that whole thing was just everything they said. You kind of like had to like acknowledge it on the spot to kind of make the call go better in a sense, So I'm assuming it's kind of like that then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's very playful and just like, oh, you want a bigger yard? Okay, that makes sense. Like, what are you most looking forward to? I almost think maybe I don't 100% say something great about it. I'm honestly more in curiosity. Like I'm coming from like a very unbiased state, and I'm just like, oh, tell me more about that. And I do think maybe your point is that it can come off a little weird when you just like ask them questions without reinforcing that they're making a good decision. Um, I usually am just coming from more curiosity, like tell me more about that. And I think the fact that you care about them is showing that empathy and is just, so the way you might exactly word it might be a little different depending on the situation, but just let them know that you really care about why this is affecting their life so much.
That makes sense.
So, but yeah, if you come from curiosity, the nice thing is if you say, hey, it's a great time to sell, you want to do it now because that's when you're going to get the most money for it and stuff. That sounds like a sales pitch, right? And no one really likes to get a sales pitch, I don't think. So they don't, because it's not about selling their house. It's about like whatever their goal is. So if you can figure out, if you're just curious and say, oh, really? Tell me more about that. Like you've got a great place. What's making you want to make a move? They're going to sell you on it. And you don't have to sell them on it, which I love that. So cool. So needs analysis, that's pretty much what you're looking at. Tell me more about that. Why is that so important to you? Okay, if it's a big deal for you, it's a big deal for me. I'm 100% committed to getting that for you. And then you move along. So share who you are. You're going to want to keep that really brief. Sometimes we do a pre-listing packet or something ahead of time so you can tell them. I do think it's good to tell them that you're a pro, you're with a great company, you sell X amount of houses, your team sells X amount of houses, however you word it. But I think it's good to tell them who you are. I don't do this to be honest, but I think you totally having the Y4C2Ts. I love that you brought that up, Terry, because having the Y4C2Ts at the front of your listing presentation, I need to add it. I just have to make sure it matches with everything. Like we got to adjust the colors or whatever. But how cool is it to show your sellers the Y4C2Ts and say, hey, here's our belief system. It's funny that it pulled up your favorite one first. But yeah, these are the Y4C2Ts. If you haven't seen them, these are the KW ones. So are these things that you'd want your seller to see? Would you want to be able to tell them, hey, we believe in win-win or no deal. We're out here trying to make the best deal for you, for the person on the other side, and for us. Like we want this to be a true win. Integrity, do the right thing. Who's going to argue with that, right? Customers always come first. They love to hear that. Sometimes I argue with that one, but no, they come first. They're just not always right. I do think they come first. They're just not always right. Commitment in all things. Communication, seek first to understand. You're modeling that for them by asking questions. So that's going to be believable. Creativity, ideas before results. Teamwork, together, everyone achieves more. Leaning on a team is huge. So if you show them who their title person is going to be, if you show them who, who your partners are, even if they're not working with your mortgage lender, like show them who your mortgage lending partner is, and like get them comfortable with, hey, these people all have your back. They all have your best interest at heart. Teamwork, together, everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. Equity, opportunities for all, and success results through people. So anyways, those are just some good things you could show them of who you are. Like, you are a great agent and you align yourself with Keller Williams, and this is basically what they can expect by hiring you. So love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah, share who you are, but remember, it's still about them. So don't make it all about you. And that's, I think, when you get super anxious about a listing appointment, it's usually because you're forgetting that part, or at least it has been for me. Like, when I'm just like, okay, I've got to say the right thing. I've got to look this way. I've got to make I've got to be something specific for them. If when you realize it's not about us, it's about them. It actually takes some of the stress off. It's like, oh, we're there to talk about them, not us.
Yeah,
So
I would add one thing to that. Just, I know this is being recorded and this is Gary Keller's slide today. And I personally don't do the share who you are either. So it could just be that we're kind of both from the same mold. I actually would move step 2 down closer to step 8. So if for some reason I can't get them to sign a listing agreement with me, that is when I pull out more of the marketing. Or if I do get them to sign the listing agreement, I use the marketing, like who we are and what we're going to do, a little bit more in terms of kind of like next steps. So I don't share a ton about who I am specifically either in that order.
love that. Yep. Yeah, they don't want to hear about you too much. I know we think they do, but they don't. They just, buyers want the house. The nice thing about buyers, they don't really care who the agent is a lot of the times. They just want the house. So as long as you don't get in the way of them and their house, you're good. Sellers, they really do want, they want to get their home sold. And you just have to show them that you can do it for them and that they can trust you. But giving a whole list of awards and things is not gonna probably work. So cool. Okay, explain your process. And I do think, I will say, share who you are. I do think setting good expectations of how this is all going to go. So do explain to them a little bit of like who they're going to be talking to, who they're going to be working with, for sure. Explain your process. What do you do? How do you do it? And the value that you're going to add to them. So what are you going to do specifically for them? What makes you different? Like, how do you add value to them? So figure out what that exactly looks like. Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is, even for me, this slide is a little different than what we're used to. I think the emphasis here is the fact that we really have to talk so honestly about how we get paid. That is like one of the biggest hot topics right now, is a lot of people don't spend time on how we get paid, and it's kind of gotten some people in trouble. So that is why here I wouldn't say, would probably be my next step, to be honest. All of these steps I go through, just probably not in this order. But I just wanted to give you that little caveat, like pros and cons of leveraging the MLS. Like, I'm 100% going to use the MLS. I'm not going to give them any pros and cons about not using the MLS. So just those little like bullet points are a little new to me. I'm sure they are to you as you're trying to explain them too.
Totally. Yeah. I think, it's kind of like this is a moment in time where
Yeah.
they're like, this is the conversation. And so we just have to figure it out, make sure that it fits well in your listing consultation, because Gary Keller wants you to sell houses. He just also wants you to be transparent about how you're doing that. And there's no reason we need to hide it. And we can use a little like we can use our presentation skills also. So,
Yeah, if it were me and I were presenting this, I'm gonna go through more of maybe step 4, and I would go through 4 next, and I would work the compensation conversation into the listing agreement.
yep,
That's the
totally,
order I would probably go in.
totally. So, okay, I'm just going to skip forward for now. So let's go to step 4, go through the home valuation process. So, okay, I'll just tell you what I do. So, we've always talked about a 5-step listing consultation: build rapport, dig deep for motivation, educate, price, contract. So that's kind of the flow that we've done. And the third one is educate, which is show them what happens. So I do think in this, like, explain the process. Typically what we do is show what that process is going to look like. So I'll actually, maybe I can share it, or do you have a seller's guide there? Let's see.
I can pull it up and I'll show everybody how to do it.
I have one. Yeah, that'd be great.
If
Love
you
it.
go to kwhomehubagent.com, for those of you that don't know, there's a new version. So if you don't have an account, you're just going to sign up for one really quickly here, even if you had a previous Home Hub account. But you don't need any approval or anything, so it's very quick. And then in here, you want to spend some time. There's going to be lots of marketing things. So in my design suite, we're working from the do-it-yourself guides right now as we are leading with revenue. And then you get to pick whichever one you want to use. So we're going to click just on this one. Okay. Where would you like me to navigate?
I was just going to go through the, like, where it shows the steps of how the process goes, like the little. So really in educate, that's your big moment to set expectations and to really show them that you know what you're doing. So it's important to show them that you know what you're doing. This is why we like to set appointments with clients. We don't like to talk about it. Like if they say, oh, how much do you think my house is worth? Don't tell them $675,000. That is not a good answer, even if you know it to be true, which you probably don't because you haven't run the numbers. But if someone says, how much do you think my house is worth? Oh, I'd love to tell you that. When would be the best time I could swing by and show you? So move it to a listing consultation. The reason why is because at that listing appointment, you can really go walk them through what to expect. You can really add a lot of value to them. So instead, you're going to move them to an appointment. And when you get to the education portion, just say, hey, it sounds like that goal is really important to you. We've got to get this place sold and we've got to get you into a place that's got a bigger yard. Awesome. Let me show you what that's going to look like. And that's when we come to this kind of process, the roadmap of, selling the home. So, hey, step number 1 is going to be find a great agent. That's really what we're doing today. This is our listing consultation, and I'm super excited to help you. Step 2, we're going to make sure we get everything priced really well, make sure you're priced correctly for today's market. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to get your home staged. That just means we're going to show it in the best light possible. So we want buyers to come in and be able to imagine their families living here. And so we're just going to simplify everything, make it as attractive as possible. We are going to do some marketing. We're going to have professional photographers come in, make sure your home shows in its absolute best light. And when people come to see it in person, it's going to be the second time they see it. They're first going to see it online. So we have to make sure those photos really stand out and show how great your property is. Then we're going to launch our marketing campaign, which is, which I always say, suffice to say, we're super aggressive marketers of real estate. I'm going to give you 2 quick things that we do that make sure that you get top dollar. One is going to be that professional photography, and the other thing is going to be our grand open house strategy. Let me show you what that looks like, and then just go into what that, whatever your things are. Your things could be different than mine. Some would say drone footage. Some would say Matterport 3D tours. Some would say staging, like some people do staging. I very rarely do. And there's no right or wrong, just whatever your value is that you add, throw those things out. But I just always say, suffice to say, I always say we're very aggressive marketers of real estate. Here's a couple things that we do to make sure you get top dollar. And suffice to say, we will leave no stone left unturned when it comes to finding a buyer for your home. We're very aggressive marketers of real estate. I just don't think they want to hear a whole marketing plan. I do think it's cool to have like a 200-point marketing plan or something you can give them. I don't have one, but I do think it's cool. I just don't think they care to hear all of that. So Give them the key points that you think are most important and then roll with it. So then we're going to get your home on the market. We're going to actually get some showings coming in. Again, we're not going to show it on Thursday or Friday. We're just going to build it up to a big grand open house on Saturday. And then we're going to have additional showings on it. We will review offers. I'll be there to help make sure that we negotiate them and get you the best offer possible, the best contract on your home. Once we accept one, we're going to go under contract. The buyer's going to do their due diligence, make sure everything's set up, and then we're going to be moving to closing. And then just ask them if they have any questions. So however you run through that, I would practice it. This one's a little different than the one I normally do. So I didn't have it like verbatim. But practice yours. Yours won't sound the same as mine, probably won't sound the same as Terry's. But just have it practice so that you can just spout it off. It's a great time to set expectations. So if there's something specific like, the open house thing is a good expectation to set, or as you're going through, they're going to receive offers. Maybe that's a great time to set expectations on, hey, the average home in today's market is going under contract after 45 days. Now our average has been 13. And we're going to do everything we can to speed that up. I just want to give you kind of a fair timeline of what you can expect. So, setting some expectations, letting them know what they can count on through that process. The more open you are with them, the better the outcome is going to be. So,
I'm
what do
sorry,
you?
I'm not trying to be distracting. I'm just showing you that everything he just went through on that checklist is further in this presentation book. So it breaks everything down even to, more information. So when he says practice this, you literally could take this package and practice it. It's got everything you need to know to be able to explain that checklist.
Love it. Yeah. So, you're probably not going to read a whole page of that. So you really do want to practice so you know what to say, but it's nice that you could flip through and kind of just show them, each step really quickly, what that means to them. I think that's just really good. So just make sure you go through, set good expectations, and let them know what it looks like to sell a home in today's market. And throw in a few things of how you add value, different than someone else would, and just show them that you care. So any other comments on like when it comes to education or anything else we want to make sure that we cover during that time?
So when I was at Family Union, they would always talk about practice, practice, practice. The one guy, he would listen to a listing appointment, like the script he used on his way to a listing appointment. Like he was always practicing.
That's awesome. Love it. Yep. Yep. Again, Sarah Reynolds, she said the top team in Keller Williams today, which is her team. She says the top team in Keller Williams practice their skills every single day. So if you're wondering what the top dog does, they practice skills every single day. Love that. Cool. So that's kind of education. The fourth step is going to be pricing, which, pricing is where we're going to start going through it now. Well, this isn't a CMA class, so we're not going to go through an actual CMA right now, but just get used to giving some pricing too. And we're going to make it so you guys can get approved to do your listing consultation. So basically have you get a fake listing consultation ready, certain house, prep all the documents, prep the packet and everything so that you can come to us and we'll actually have you give us your listing consultation and then we'll sign it off, which I think will be really cool so that you can feel comfortable and confident moving forward that like you are listing certified, like you're ready to go on that consultation. Okay, I thought he's gonna add something, but I think it was just a random noise. So anyways, so yeah, do practice it, run it, practice exactly what that sounds like, and just get comfortable with get comfortable with giving it. Now, specifically on pricing, I'll give you a few tips. when we get to pricing, you've got your CMA, you're going to have a bunch of comps, right? And so you've got to get good at going through them. So the first one, you're always going to go through the subject property. Here's your house. These are the details on your house. Okay. And then you're going to go through the solds and you're going to say, okay, here's the solds. There's this one that sold for this much, this one that sold for this much. This one was a little bigger than yours. This one was a little smaller than yours and whatnot. You're going to give them very basic outlines of those homes. And then you're going to go through the pendings. So go through the backup ones or pending under contract or backup. And you're going to say, okay, this one is, under contract. We don't know exactly how much for, but probably around here based on how long it's spent on the market or whatever. You're going to go through the pending ones. The sold ones are going to give them the best idea of value. The pending ones are going to give them the best idea of what's selling today. And then the active ones are going to tell them what the competition is. So when you go through, which to be fair, actives probably give you the best value today, because if you see that there's 12 other actives, they're all just like yours. And, you're pretty much going to have to be the lowest priced one. If all the other ones are not selling and you've got about the same house as all of them, you've got to make sure you're more aggressively priced. But just get used to going through the solds, go through the pendings, go through the actives, make sure that you're the best priced out of all the actives. Because when a buyer looks at their house, they're going to look at all those actives too. And if one of those looks like a better value to them, they're going to choose that one. So basically go through it. But the issue that I normally see is that people go through it too slow. So they go through it like, okay, let me show you this house. This is the address. This is the square footage. These are the bedrooms. These are the bathrooms. These are the garages and all that stuff. And then they say it sold for this much at this time. And that's just not, most people can't keep up with that. It gets too boring. They can't do it. So just kind of figure out, okay, have an idea who you're dealing with. But most people are not going to be like that. Most people cannot go through every detail. So really break it down to, hey, here's 5 houses that sold in your neighborhood in the last 90 days. And look through them ahead of time. I even highlight them because, when you print out those MLS sheets, stuff gets lost. Even if you know exactly where to go because you've done it a million times, the highlighter will help draw their eyes just to the important parts, which might be the square footage and the sold price and the sold date. Or, find what are the main things that they need to see. And then you can show, okay, this one's bigger than yours. It sold for this. This one's smaller than yours. It sold for this. This one's about the same, but it has a bigger lot or a smaller lot. Just be prepared to go through it very quickly because I see people's eyes glaze over really fast. So move very quick when you're going through pricing. And then at the end of that, once you've gone through all those comps with them, then I say, hey, based on all that, where do you think your house fits? And they'll tell you. And usually it's going to be pretty close because now you've shown them all the data. They're actually basing it on something. And some people will tell you when you first get to their home, you're supposed to say, hey, what do you want to get out of this? To get an idea of what they're expecting to list it for. I personally don't. I get it. And I'm not mad at you if you do that or anything. But I do think you tend to run into more problems because I do think that they usually will say a higher number because you haven't shown them the details yet. But once you show them the data, they kind of feel silly telling you some pie in the sky number if, the data you just showed shows that nothing in the neighborhood is going for that. So I'm curious to hear if there's any opposing opinions on that here, but no. Okay, yeah, I've always done that. Heck yeah. Okay, so yep, that's the thing. There's all different strategies, but that's the way that I would do pricing. Hey, where do you think your house fits best? They'll usually give you a pretty good idea. I've honestly probably coached just as many people up on price as I have down. When you give them all the data, a lot of times they'll give you a lower price than what you thought, just based on the data, And then you can say, okay, I get why you're saying that. And these ones were sold in November and your home is selling in March and the market's much different now. So where I think we need to be is just a hair higher or whatever. So, you may coach them up, you may coach them down, just depending on situation, but you'll start a lot closer if you do that. So any other comments? Yeah, go for it, man. Did you have a question?
Oh no, I was just saying that I like that a lot. That's great.
Oh, perfect. Good deal. Yep. If you go in and just tell someone your house is 675, um, A, it doesn't make them feel very empowered, and it's better to make them feel like it's their idea. And B, if another agent comes by, let's say you don't take the listing that night. Let's say they're going to interview someone else. What price does the next agent have to say so that your seller will list with them? Like 676. And just like that, they just netted $1,000 more. They're like, awesome, let's go. But if it's more of a process and you guys are just building the price together based on data, then it's like, oh, we're on the same page. We came up to it together. It wasn't my agent said it was only worth this. It's just like, this is what the market says. So that way, when they go with another agent or when they talk to another agent who says, oh, you should be listing it at this, they're going to say, oh, well, we looked at the comps. Are there different comps? Did they not show me all the comps? But it's going to be more of a fact-based conversation than just, oh, I want more. So, okay. So that's pricing. And then the last one is contracts. I'm not going to go way deep on it. When it comes to prepping for a listing, I feel like we have a really great walkthrough. You can obviously go into opportunities in Command and you can see the whole list. But basically, what documents are you going to need to get signed? You're going to need an exclusive right to sell agreement. You're going to need probably an MLS exclusion form, which basically says, hey, we're taking the listing today, but we're not putting it on the market today. So probably an MLS exclusion form. You could get the MLS input sheet signed, although normally ours isn't prepared 100% at that time because we hadn't seen the home yet. We haven't done the full MLS input sheet. We will have them sign the lead-based paint disclosure right there if the house was built prior to 1978. We'll have them sign an ABA, which is affiliated business arrangement. Each of our offices has one. It's just to protect them. It basically tells our clients, hey, we're going to recommend you different service providers. You're welcome to go with them or go with anyone else that you prefer. And what am I missing? Wire fraud alert disclosure. I think that's pretty much it. So anyways, you're going to have, and there's a whole checklist. It shows you exactly how to walk through each of those documents. So, and let us know if you can't figure it out. We'd love to help you. And basically just go ahead and have your seller sign it. How do we approach that conversation? You've just given them so much value, crazy amount of value. So at the end, say, awesome, you've got that photography appointment scheduled. You know when it's listing, when the open house is. You're just moving right along. And then you just say, awesome, here's the first one I'm going to have you sign. This just says, and this is where you tell them what you charge. Hey, this shows you, what the fees look like. We're charging a 6% commission. That's going to be, if there's another agent on it, that's going to be split. I shouldn't have said that number because it could be any number. Why did I say that number? What a dummy. Whatever the commission is, let's say 10%. My commission is going to be 10%. Half of that is going to be split with the buyer's agent, or 2% of that's going to be split with the buyer's agent or whatever. But basically just, tell them how that goes. Hey, we're going to split it with the other one. That's to make sure that you get as much exposure as possible. Just kind of go through it. I don't like to focus on the compensation too much. I do touch on it, and you have to get them to sign it right next to it. So we're not pulling we're not tricking our clients or anything. You have to go through it, and you will go through it. But at the bottom of that page, it also shows what they're going to get from you. It shows what they're going to get from you, which again is full disclosure, obedience, confidentiality, all those things. And that's cool. That's a big promise that you're giving them. So go through all that, have them sign the MLS exclusion form, have them sign all those documents, and then move along. If you have them sign it in person, it's much easier. If you have them sign it on DocuSign, it can get a little trickier. It's harder to get it back. But right in that moment, you're in front of them, just have them sign it in person. I think that's the easiest way, not just because I'm a dinosaur and I just like pen and paper, but because if you send a DocuSign, you're just way more likely to get pushback, to get questions, for it to take forever. And you need to get pictures ordered. You need to start paying for things, and you need to have that ERS signed. So, and I'm very curious to hear what you think, Terry. As far as going through compensation, I feel like you could just totally, like, since it's fresh on your mind from Gary's class, like, what do you think as far as compensation or anything that conversation needs to have in it?
I mean, I think you covered it very, very well. Obviously, we have to explain it. We need to explain who's paying for what. That's a big thing. This is my shout out to Marcel, or my plug for Marcel. I always go with a net sheet. So I always take a net sheet with me. I have him prepare it for me before I go on the listing appointment. All the numbers are estimated, and it really helps me go through the commission or compensation. It helps me go through that because then I can show them. Most of the time, I feel like people care mostly about what they're going to net. They don't necessarily care about anything else. It's more about what they're going to net. So if I can go through and show, hey, this amount's going to go to this brokerage, this amount's going to go to our brokerage, you're going to have title fees, you're going to have your taxes, you're going to have all of this, and potentially pay closing costs. This is going to be your net. That's how I make it a little more comfortable. And then by the time I get to the listing agreement, they're on board. They're 100% on board with their net. So I really use the net sheet to guide me through that conversation. And it looks very official. That's why I don't necessarily love like the net sheets you can do on apps or anything like that. I do like to have the paper in front of me because it's very official looking and includes everything.
I can also get you an Excel spreadsheet so that you can, before you go, maybe play around with a few scenarios. And then I can get you like the official one that has like the address on it. And like Terry said, looks official. So I can get you one that you can kind of play around with and kind of see how it works. And it's also helpful too. So if maybe you have a client on the phone, or maybe they email you and say, hey, can we talk about maybe 2 scenarios? You can maybe kind of work that up on this spreadsheet. So I can email that out to people.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, that sounds fabulous. Thank you, Marcel.
You bet.
Love it. So that's kind of the deal. You just got to be, I'll tell you, you do want to have the basics. You want to have practiced this. You do not want this to be your first time doing it. You don't want to be with a live client. So do practice it. That's really important. If you can't find a practice partner, let us know. We'll pair you up with someone. Come to those Wednesdays at 9 a.m. We're doing our practices there, our script practicing. So make sure that when you go to that listing, this is not your first time doing it. And like, be prepared, have your skills down 100%. And what you do or say is probably less important than the attitude that you bring. So if you bring a confident, positive, ready to go attitude, it's going to get you a far way. Okay. So it's going to make all the difference. You want to be positive. Hey, they'd be crazy not to list with me. Just move forward. You never even have to necessarily ask them if they want to list with you. Hey, do you want to list your house with me? That almost doesn't even need to be an option, a question, because you're going to do such a good job. By the end, it's just like, okay, here's the when we're doing the photography. Here's when we're doing the open house. Like, just go 100% all in. Let them know that this is not your first time, even if it is. Just go in and act like you've done this a million times. They won't even question it. It's mostly about confidence, I would say.
Well, and this was like probably a good, I don't want to say a third, but like almost a full day was spent on this when Bill Pipes did his whole G3 conference thing. He did a big portion on this, and like a bunch of that book is like rebuttals for like when they say no the first time in that. Like he had like 3 different ways after they say no in like 3 different ways again, you mean, to get it figured out still. Like it was pretty intense. It's cool.
Totally.
I actually feel pretty ready for these. Once I get one, I feel like it'll go pretty good based off of what you guys have taught me and what I learned there and that. I think it'll go pretty well.
That's awesome. And I was going to say, keep in mind too, that we do have scripts. So those objections that you talked about, Cody, it was good you brought that up. In the material resource library, there are scripts for handling objections. They will come up. Those are definitely things that you want to be practicing.
Yep. Yeah, and if you can get comfortable enough with those scripts, then it kind of makes it be like, hey, I hope they ask me a question because I know exactly what I'm going to say. I hope they question me on my commission. I hope they question me on the price. I hope that they push back on me for why why they need to be hiring me. Like, you want to be so confident with the answers to those that you're just like, yeah, bring it on. That's going to make you way more confident, which is going to help you book more listing appointments. If you're always just hoping you don't run into someone who questions your commission, that's going to be tricky. It's going to be stressful. So
How I've been practicing these is I do them with my daughters, and they're pretty ruthless about it. They don't show me no mercy. They are dicks. I mean, they are 100%. They're ruthless with it.
That's awesome.
Love
Well,
it.
and then and the listing class that I went to, it talked about objections are just opportunities for you to ask more questions to learn more. It's not something where you have to like have an answer for everything. It's maybe where you can kind of say, you can maybe ask some more questions with their objection to see why they're asking or having that objection. Then you can kind of get more down to the bone of why they're asking that.
Yep.
Totally. Yeah, most objections are actually just questions. So they don't even need to be handled. They just need to be answered. Cool. Any comments, questions? Anything, any last minute entries in here?
This was all very, very helpful. Thank you, guys.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for being
Awesome.
here.
I feel like I got like a one-on-one time with like all the pros at once. It's pretty dope. Thank you, guys.
You are
loved it.
welcome.
I loved it. And Janet and Dan did join us. Along the
Eventually.
lines. So
Yeah.
hopefully there's some good value there.
Yeah.
Yes, and Janet's been on Ignite After Dark since like 4 o'clock. So she's getting lots of training today.
I love it. Okay, well,
Go out and take
appreciate
listings.
you guys. Yes, I love the sound of that.
And come practice with us. Cody, I'd love to do a listing presentation. I'll be hard on you, but I bet you're going to go to a listing appointment and be like, man, that seller was way easier than my 5-year-old.
For sure.
But when you
Go to
guys
the
are
ringer
ready,
bag.
we do want to practice with you.
So is Wednesday a better day? So what the reason why you guys haven't seen me like all that often too much is because with the change on Thursdays and that, I can't just switch it for like Mondays because Mondays at my wife's job is like a requirement for all the managers there or something like that. But I can probably take Wednesdays off on like a consecutive thing. That wouldn't be any kind of an issue. I could probably, is Wednesday a good day to take off for like real estate, or we'll have her take off so I can just do my stuff. But because
Yeah, I mean, whatever. What we were talking
I-
about with Wednesdays is the morning. Like the morning, we do 9 to noon. We lead generate together, we script and role play together, and we do our accountability. So that's Wednesday morning. So yeah, if you want to come lead generate, do all that good stuff with us, we'd love to have you, of course.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we're lead generating every morning too. We just don't always, you may not know exactly where we're at, and we aren't together. Like we divide and conquer. So,
Cool.
hey,
Okay, you guys have a great night. Thank you, Nick, for taking over when my technology is wonderful.
of course. Thanks for having got all the graphics ready for us. It was great. So,
Yeah. Cool.
okay, well,
Okay,
let us know
guys,
how
have a
we
good
can
night.
support you. Let's
I
go
will.
get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have a
Thank
good
you all
night.
so much again. You guys have a fabulous evening.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.